with Wizards for one more topic.
A little bit more, and then, we'll get... Which, there's a lot to talk about with Wizards. They're kind of a big thing. So this I'm the Magic guy,
This is the state of Wizards right now. So first off...
The money side.
Well, not just the money side.
Sure,
so let's start with the AI art piece. So obviously on Saturday, it broke that one of their artists, who Wizards has worked with for a number of years.
Yeah. Something like a decade?
Yeah, pretty close, 9 years. He used some art.
Yeah.
Some AI stuff to do some artwork for Wizards, sent it to Wizards, and Wizards is including it in Big Beast, which is the next D&D book.
The next D&D book.
Right.
The technical, just, I love me some evidence, and I do, if we can snag that in the chat there, I think that's interesting to discuss.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, Necron.
I'm big on evidence.
He admitted it.
Yeah, and what the artist claimed was they owned it. The day after it came out, they posted to the site formerly known as Twitter. Apparently they used it, they said, for edit and polishing. They did a side-by-side where they showed, here's what they claimed was their original digital painting, and then they said, I did use AI for polishing and editing.
Part of it
so
was
it is
also another artist that works with Wizards. Some of their stuff was fed into his AI.
And I believe there was there's a legal side to this too, there's some lawsuits and things.
And so right now, this is going to get worse. D&D, to their credit, unlike the OGL debacle, immediately jumped on this.
I hope that is them having learned a lesson from how poorly they handled the OGL debacle.
Right, on the OGL debacle, it took them 14 days to issue a statement.
Long time.
This one, they jumped on. Now, part of it, I think, is this is a simpler situation for them to address.
Yeah.
Right, than the OGL was. Because I think they got caught flat-footed really bad with the OGL.
Yeah, things were found out that they didn't want people to find out, at least in that way.
Yes.
They did not, there was no spin on that.
And so they were stuck in a position there. This one, they jumped out immediately, put something out on the D&D Beyond, formerly known as Twitter page, and I think they put it on Threads too.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, we didn't actually know.
Yeah, they didn't disclose. The artist did not disclose this.
They didn't tell us ahead of time. It slipped through our thingy. We're updating our artist guidelines. Apparently, their artist guidelines for Magic already address AI art.
Okay.
And say no.
Okay.
But didn't have the same ones in the D&D one.
They are in the same building. Mm-hmm. They're in the same physical building about an hour drive south of where I am currently sitting.
And a lot of the questions were, how did this get past the art director?
Yeah.
Being that artists on Twitter basically found it immediately.
Yeah.
And were like, what the heck?
What happened here?
Yep. Again, better response time this time, D&D, and a better response to the situation.
Sure.
But you guys can't seem to go a quarter
I know.
without stepping on something.
It is
OGL,
very much...
Pinkertons, now this.
Yeah.
Y'all need to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not here to hate on Wizards.
Yeah.
Okay? I like your product.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
And many will accuse me of liking it too much.
Y'all need to get out of your own way. Okay?
I very much.
And I think it is affecting their brand. And this is where we'll get into the numbers.
Yes.
Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast and Digital Gaming segment are down 11% in Q2 from $419 million in revenue of last year for Q2 to $375 this year.
Okay.
They're taking a $25 million write-down, which tells us finally what they're...
On the D&D movie there.
On the D&D movie.
Yep.
I don't think that counts the marketing budget.
Oh, this is just the production of the film.
Boom, $25 million markdown. Hasbro has already sold the production company that made it.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, they sold them a few weeks ago. Wow. Gone. They spent a lot of money on that movie, and that movie tanked. Staying with the numbers though, Magic sales were down 15% from 365 in Q2 of 2022 to 311 in 2023.
So is that like from this time last year to this time this year?
So no, that's just comparing quarter to quarter.
Okay, got it.
Q2 of 22 to Q2 of 23, they're down. It's 50 million less. For the first half overall,
$50 million less in sales
in Q2.
See, and this is, I don't know to those watching what these numbers do to you. To me, it's just like, what is that number? Like, this game can still be as popular as it is and people can buy $50 million less of it. Like, this is me actively trying to wrap my brain around that.
Overall,
but not great for the financial side there.
Overall, Magic down for the first half, down 22 million from 562 to 540. And here's the bigger things. They were buoyed by a 33% increase in digital revenues behind D&D Beyond.
Okay.
which added nearly 2 million registered users in the first half and growth in MTG Arena. Operating profit for the digital gaming segment dropped from 142 million from 225, lower revenue. Where's the other one? Here you go. This is where it's going to go. With the write-down and lower profit contributions from WOTC, Hasbro profits went from $219 million in profit in 2022 at this stage to a $188 million loss.
And to be clear there, so that's, you were making $200-something million, and you not only went to zero, but then went down almost the same, or from my perspective, almost the same amount. We're doing the math here.
Yeah, $407 million drop.
See that, and I see it in the YouTube chat here. I think there is something to be said for wringing the community dry. It's the comment being made in the YouTube chat there. And as we talked about a little bit before stream, to a certain group involved in this conversation, money's to a degree not real.
No.
And I wonder if what they're discovering is money is real to the people who have to decide how much am I going to spend on your game,
products.
like me, and like I think a lot of us, watching this stream and playing these games.
Yeah, this is big.
That's big. That's, well, you were telling me before the stream. That's like somebody doesn't work in the position they were in before.
It's a very good chance.
Yeah.
Again, a $25 million write-down. I'm actually surprised it's not a little higher.
Yeah.
That tells me that the production budget, the reported production budget, was probably a little bit lower than we all thought.
Okay.
Probably a little bit lower, but a $25 million write-down is still, I mean, it's no joke.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that thing flopped so hard.
Yeah. What gets me is, like, granted, from the perspective of a fan, from the perspective who I just, on Sunday, we did the first session of our family D&D campaign. I'm running a campaign for my wife and my son, and it was just as wild as you would imagine a campaign where one of the main characters is a 6-year-old would be. I really enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed this movie. But we've talked about this a little bit. It was marketed to people who enjoy D&D stuff. There was not effort made to get average human to watch it.
I didn't understand the marketing campaign for the D&D movie because when I took myself out of the mind of somebody who understands D&D, I was like, who's this for?
Yeah.
Right?
You were talking about the trailer.
It kind of looks like a Marvel movie, but not, but fantasy, but very polished, like I wasn't sure where they were aiming.
Yeah.
Right? And that was one of the reasons I think that the D&D movie didn't do well is because, again, the concept of it has always been get the normies through the door.
Sure.
Right? If MCU films were entirely reliant on people who read comic books to go to the thing, they'd tank every time.
Nothing.
And that they wouldn't make anything.
Yeah.
You have to get people who aren't in these borderline communities in the door.
Yeah.
And that was what they failed to do with the D&D movie.
Yeah.
Was market it in a way where anybody went, what is this?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people I talked to who were in that normie community was like, what do you think? They're like, I don't.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It just, and again, it's not that people aren't going to the movies. Barbie crossed $1 billion.
Crushed it.
Okay.
Congrats to Barbie. Oppenheimer, my understanding, doing very well.
Oh no, Oppenheimer's doing great. It flopped because it flopped. Kind of coming back to Wizards, they're growing their digital stuff. They're doing this stuff. They've obviously started a very hard pivot.
Yes.
To what their business model, what they want it to be.
Yeah.
And I think they're almost taking an Apple view of it as, we're going to push our business model this way. They just don't realize that this is the better model, right? That was something that Jobs used to do, right? People would go in with when the iPhone came out. They were like, people don't want this. He's like, we're going to tell them what they want, and they're going to do it.
We're going to decide what you want, and we're going to make that the standard.
And now, if you're Steve Jobs, you can do that.
Sure.
Okay.
When you're creating the next generation of technology,
you can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's working for Wizards.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting, which, real quick, thank you for that gift sub. I see that coming through there. Thanks for gifting that. Very generous of you. I think it's interesting to see that the number of sets has been dialed back a little bit.
A little bit.
Not a lot, and like I say, Magic is a lot of things. So I see a thing for Modern in here. I see a new chunk of Commander decks in here, like the Fallout release. That is a purely Commander release, maybe with some collector boosters, with like what they're doing for Doctor Who, for some special printings of that. Talking about Baldur's Gate.
We'll talk about that in a
3.
second.
Oh yeah. Are they? Did they?
So no, they didn't produce it. Larian Studios did under license, which D&D doesn't have a video game division. So
in the chat, somebody's asking about the full release of Baldur's Gate.
Is it going to help them? I mean, they'll get licensing money out of it. I don't know how much. We won't know until the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I got to imagine it's not going to help them a whole lot.
Yeah.
Not financially at this stage. Is it going to help with brand stuff and things like that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a very popular video game, and a lot of people who don't play D&D are still playing this game. Again, because the understanding is you're trying to get people outside of your hobby in.
Yeah. Well, Kelsey makes an interesting point in the YouTube chat here. This idea of Wizards doing things, the reference in the chat here is to having to pay extra to play in the command zone at physical conventions, Magic Fest and now Magic Cons. This is a really interesting thing to me because I was listening to some content the other day that was talking about there's something called like these Black Lotus drafts or something like that, which I'm in a spot where I don't get to travel for these conventions. My understanding is this is a very expensive, kind of VIP sort of draft experience. Every time they've done them, people have said they're horrible, and the feedback is almost universally negative. Every time they've done them, they've sold out within hours of the announcement of the event. And so
it's that FOMO that we talked about before.
Yes, and I genuinely, in this, I have some empathy for whoever's having to make these decisions at Wizards, who may or may not have a job right now, because if what you're constantly hearing from people is, this was bad, this was terrible, fix this, this, and this, and then the next time you try it, it sells out instantly. To me, it's like, which is it? You're telling me you hate this thing, but you keep coming back and doing it.
You keep engaging it. Well,
is it different people every time?
Churn a little bit.
Is it, and these were the questions I would have if I was in that spot. This is where I want to
go to some of the stuff that we were talking about in the pre-show, and that's this. Wall Street has now trained investors. Wall Street has now trained these companies that you can't just be a stable company that makes, okay, we have a little bit of growth, 5, 6, 7% a year, but we're profitable and we're stable and we're not losing money and do. Wall Street has said, no, in order for us to invest in you, in order for us to inject capital, in order for us to do this stuff, you got to be 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x every year.
Crazy amounts of profit.
Crazy amounts of profit. And it's not just profit, it's growth.
Yeah.
Right? And so the thing that's done is it's forced these executives whose entire compensation, the very existence of their jobs is based on the shareholders in Wall Street tell us this is what we need to be successful.
Yeah.
You must go accomplish that. Right?
Man.
Right?
I feel for whoever's getting that.
No, and you're compensated accordingly.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And the issue is that tech has changed the nature of investment and how investment is looked at. And
for
all
everything.
These things for all these corporations. And it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a bad thing. Because you can't take a company like Wizards of the Coast and go, we don't need to have an extra, we don't need to grow 2x this year.
200%, 300%, whatever.
We're not going to do it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right? But we're still making money, so it's okay.
Yeah.
We employ people and we're putting out a good product. Wall Street has trained that out of them.
See, and that genuinely, call this just a very human moment, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
And as you say, people are being quite aggressively at times compensated for these things when they do them well. And I am the first person who has a hard time being sympathetic towards somebody who's making a certain amount of money. But at the same time, I'm just imagining somebody in a position working really hard to make something they absolutely love, working with people who they care about, who they know personally, and they sat down for a quarterly earnings meeting, and because they couldn't quadruple the growth of their sector of a company in a year,
you're fired.
You're done. You're gone. That And to me, like, that's sad. That's because to me there's a dehumanizing quality to that.
Yep.
And as you say, there's training that goes into this. And it's one of these things where I will make jokes about how much money people make doing different things and that sort of stuff. But at the same time, it's like, you've described a little bit what it's like in some of these corporate spaces. You're working 70 hours a week. You are working constantly. You don't get to not answer your phone. Like, what is spending time with my family?
Nope.
You know?
Forget it.
And there's a deep sadness to me in that regard. And I've chosen to make that trade in my life. Like, I get to have summers off with my kid.
Yeah.
And that means I am compensated in a very different way than I could be in a different industry. But it also means that my life comes with a certain peace of mind and a certain openness where I'm not stressed because some VC doesn't want to invest in my department because I didn't triple the size of my market share.
Yeah.
You know, I get to do something I love without that pressure.
Exactly. And that's the thing that we talked a little bit about this again in pre-show, which is, where are those balances?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we love the product. We like playing the game.
Yes.
It's a community event. Like, I love sitting down when we get late at night, we've closed the kitchen, and I'm just waiting around, and there's 10 in the store. And I'll sit down and do a commander pod with people in the store. It's a blast.
Yes.
Right?
It's why I judge Magic.
Right.
Is so I can see 36 people on a Friday night, the vast majority of them having a really nice time playing a game they really enjoy.
Absolutely.
It's why I do what I do.
And that's the thing. But anybody this is the thing that we keep going, I keep seeing this in the discourse.
Yeah.
It's not even the executives. It's a whole societal thing.
Yeah.
It is, we now have this belief in our economic system that if X, Y, and Z don't happen, you're failing, even when you're succeeding.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the reason people, and somebody asked me this the other day, like, why can't you get investment? Why can't somebody, do stuff with Wizards and things like that?
Sure.
Because you can't get capital into tabletop. Because it's
Yeah.
never going to be a 10x growth industry. It's just not.
It's just not what it is.
Okay? And so capital is not going to get injected into this industry in the way that it needs to be.
Yeah.
For it to grow, for it to be something where somebody could go toe-to-toe with Wizards.
In
and really,
today's economic existence.
and banks and investors are just going to be like, nah, no, sorry, not doing it.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
And to see in the YouTube chat here, like, this to me would only be doubled for people who, as they're mentioning here, certain personalities who are being mentioned.
In the D&D and the Magic communities.
Exactly.
Yep.
Who it's now, from the player perspective, or I shouldn't say from the player perspective, from the discourse perspective, you're a sellout. You're a corporate shill. Mm-hmm. And then from the corporate perspective, why aren't our profits higher? It's why can't you get these people who apparently think you're a corporate shill, or at least that's what you're hearing about on all these web platforms, to spend more of their money on this thing? Why aren't you turning our industry into a 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, industry?
Which is why they're so heavily focused on D&D Beyond, which is why the people that they're hiring at the corporate top end, that's where they're moving.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But for right now, Wizards catching it in the teeth.
They're having a tough time.
Why are you still here? It's the end of the video. You need to have liked and subscribed and hit the notification bell. Why haven't you done that yet? Your mother's very disappointed in you.